Good evening, everybody. Welcome to ReGenAg Chat 15. Tonight is a very blatant plug for carbon calling, really. So the tickets have gone on sale today, and so we were just using this as an opportunity to really talk through what the conference is going to be about, introduce you to the range of, well, a lot. Some of you may have met some of us, but just that the four of us have been involved really from the beginning. So just a bit of a some time sort of talking through what we're all doing and what we're interested in looking at. And we're also really interested in your ideas. So we'll talk a bit through the program, but obviously it's not fully formed. So if anybody's got any ideas for good speakers or workshops or things they want to see, we're very much welcome for ideas to fit stuff in. What I should have said, my name is Genever. I am joined this evening by Nick. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not used to sitting next to Reno.
Very close because of your microphone. We've also got Tim Nicholson, who is the host farmer for Carbon Calling. So we'll come to him from in a bit and just go through what he's been up to and how he's preparing and sort of how he shifted some of his thinking in the last few years. And then we've also got we'll also have a chat with Reno to talk through what's your perfect Sunday or equivalent of in farming land. But Nick, what have you been up to?
Oh, I could tell you a lot about his perfect Sunday. What have I been up to? So, well, we had a half-term visit to Manchester with the kids. That was interesting. Apart from halfway there on the train, we got a phone call to say someone's stuck on the lane. So that was ended up in
you might have to just turn your video off.
Good stuff.
Just Nick has got into Dalek mode. You might just have to turn your video off.
But then last week I went to the NFU. Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Reno, might need to tell Adam to go and just get off the internet upstairs. So we've got a woofer upstairs. I think he's on the internet. So let me start again. So last week I went to the NFU conference in Birmingham, first time at the conference, and I can see some people on the call were there. They asked me to speak on resilience, and I did, and I did speak to someone afterwards, and I think they were probably the NFU. I think it probably needs to shift in the kind of regenerative direction ever so slightly in their thoughts, and I think they were probably quite brave asking me to speak. So I think they are shifting, but I did get referred to as a farmer's wife quite a lot. Annoying. And I've never seen so many over 50-year-old men in tweed, but I enjoyed it, and I met a load of good people, and yeah, I managed to talk about beavers on stage, which was quite quite an interesting response. But yeah, so all good. And then yeah, so I think we should just do a nod to the Ukraine situation. I know you, Liz, your dad had a workman, didn't he, when he was growing up, who was from Ukraine?
Yeah, prisoner of war that stayed here to work on the farm after the war ended. Yeah,
and it's just quite shocking. And I just wish there was something we could do.
And the bit, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I was bedding some yards down this morning and just made you realise that this, in the world of, in Ukraine, there's still farmers having to bed things down or hopefully bed things down, and just how normal life just can shift so quick.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, if the dairy farms, what on earth are they doing with all their milk? It's we don't know how lucky we are. Anyway, so are you well, Liz? We're going to see you this week.
Yeah, I'm coming up to Cumbria tomorrow, so that's exciting. Yeah, I had an interesting experience of being called woeful. Sorry, the webinar I did was woeful, which was I was chairing a session on regenerative ag for sheep advisors, and it's interesting how much obviously we've shifted, or I've shifted in my thought, which I didn't think it was. We didn't say anything particularly controversial. We were talking about wormers and their impact on dung beetles, and the one particular farmer was interested in trying to reduce fly control treatments, and this was deemed misinformation by people on the call. So it's just quite interesting, and at no point did we ever say everybody needs to farm like this. It was a general discussion about changing practices and that people are looking slightly differently at how they're producing sheep. But it was quite interesting to be, well, frustrating, I suppose is the word, but also makes you realise that there's quite a, I've come quite a long way, but there's a lot of people that still need some other exposure to ideas.
Yeah, and just going back to the NFU conference, the whole conference, throughout the conference, it was sponsored by, every session was sponsored by either a supermarket or a fertilizer company or, you know, big ag. And I think that, yeah, we need to kind of wise up to that as farmers, because they sponsored every meal, and wouldn't it have been good to have like food from the farmers who were there, and then the supermarkets to pay those farmers the right price for the food. Anyway, that's another subject. But yeah, so carbon calling, Liz.
Yes.
Getting rather close.
It's fine. It's fine. So the dates for it are Friday the 24th, which is sort of a gathering, and there'll be some activity on the Friday night, and there are sort of wild camping spaces available. The main conference is on Saturday the 25th. And that runs most of the day. And Nick's you've been talking to quite a few of the speakers, haven't you? So who have you got booked in so far?
So we have got, Sheila Dillon, she does the BBC food programme. I don't know how many people listen to that. She's got this amazing voice. I think she lives in Lancashire, and I just emailed her and she was just up for it. And she does the Food and Farming Award, BBC Food and Farming Awards, and she kind of gets all this, so I think she'll be really good. So she'll open and close it. We've got Greg Judy, who is also speaking at Groundswell, who we spoke about him on the last call, but he is from, Liz, I've forgotten where he's from, which state.
I want to say Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri. A big rancher out there, all grass-based, written a lot of books. So he's just, I think he'll just be really good. He's very relatable to farmers. I think he'll be amazing speaker. So he's coming, and then we've got a farmer panel of people like, it's a bit of a northern loving, the likes of Alex Brewster, Charlie Walker, the Nellises, and then Andy Rumming from Oxford Way, or Swindon, Wiltshire, even. I've probably forgotten some people there.
And maybe Bruce.
Yes. So Bruce Thompson is a dairy farmer from Ireland, and we've done some stuff with him around dung beetles, and he's doing a Nuffield, and he is a really good presenter, and kind of brings it all alive, and he's kind of into the environment but also productive dairy farmer. So hopefully he can come. He's not sure yet, because he might have to go on travels with his Nuffield. We've got Patrick Holden coming from the Sustainable Food Trust. He's a bit of a hero of mine. And there's a chap called Sam Wilkin, who isn't, well, I wouldn't say he's in our circle, but if you're a cheese maker, you'll have heard of him. He has a podcast, and he is really into cheese and telling the cheese story, works alongside Neil's Yard Dairy, and he's working with some farmers in Somerset, I think, and they make cheese, and they, on one dairy farm, they're going regenerative, on the other they're just doing normal stuff, and he's doing a podcast that follows them through their journey. And who else, Liz?
Jane Lane and Sarah Dunning.
Oh, yes. So these
T-Bay.
two, yeah. So T-based services, Westmoreland Services, Sarah Dunning and Jane Lane, they're two sisters. Lots of people on the call will have heard of them. I think they're on a TV show at the minute as well. But they've just run an amazing business, and they've got a farm, and they're trying to go very much down the regenerative road on the farm, and they get the grass-fed thing big into the environment. And if any of you have ever been to T-based services or the Gloucester services, it's just, well, it's like going shopping for the day. You could spend hours in there.
And a lot of money.
And a lot of money. But people do, don't they? I mean, every time you go there, whatever you have is top notch. So, yeah.
I will forever now remember Gloucester Services as a place where I smashed my phone.
Oh, Liz.
That's my my memory of Gloucester. Obviously, after buying an expensive coffee, and Ben Baskin, Tim's arranged.
Yeah, well, that's Tim's baby. He can maybe talk about that when he comes on. Yeah,
I'm talking about your baby, Jake Fines.
Well, hopefully Jake Fines might come. I know. Well, he messaged me because he enjoyed my beaver bomb at the conference. So he isn't definitely coming, but I'm hoping he might.
I'm a bit jealous, Liz.
You'll be fine.
But he's just, if any of you have heard him ever speak on a podcast, he doesn't kind of mince his words, and he's very articulate, and he's just, yeah. So hopefully he'll come. Who have we forgotten?
And I suppose hopefully Hurdy as well, just talking through what they're up to.
Yeah. So some of you might have come across Hurdy, might have, they're a couple from, a couple from Ambleside. And they, when I first met Reno, they were just starting up this they were designers, and they were starting up this tiny kind of, I don't know what you call it, merchandise marketing. So basically they've got this brand, and they put, I'll turn my camera on, hang on now. That one. So it's just the power of the brand and the story behind the brand. And they have just done really well. And they work with Fardwick, because all it is a picture. Is my internet okay? Yeah. Am I here, Liz? Yeah. And so they're one of our main sponsors, and they'll probably just explain how they run their business. But as far as branding goes, I think as farmers we can probably learn a lot from them. Go on.
No, and they've got they do a huge amount of due diligence, don't they, on suppliers into them. Do you mean they have a range of merchandise, and they do ensure that who they get it from is sustainable production systems.
Yeah, and I think also that leads us probably onto the conference. We can then talk about wool and the fact that we need to somehow get our heads around using it better, because I think they do some bed mattresses.
Hurdy Sleep, yes. So it's a mattress topper made of Herdwick wool.
Yeah. Because it just is ludicrous, isn't it?
I've got a wool pillow. Love it. Stuff with wool. I don't know if it's Hurdy or not. It might be a bit scratchy if it's Hurdy.
But the brand, it's got lots. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So wool pillows all round.
Yeah.
Not feathers. Hate them.
This is insightful chat already from Tim. In terms of, and just the other thing to say is, so yeah, the main conference will be the Saturday, and then I always call him Judge Judy. Greg Judy is then doing a more intense workshop on the Sunday. So again, all the various options are on the website. Also, and it's obviously wider than this, but the people on this call. But if you got a ticket from the one that was meant to be in 2019, and I asked you whether you wanted a refund and you said no, I'll roll it round. So obviously those tickets are being honoured. So I'll be in contact and get details for the next tickets for this one.
So as far as Liz, as far as the website goes, how do people find us?
So there is carboncalling.farm, which is currently a page that sits on, actually it's on my website, but the link I've just put into the chat in here, and I'll make sure it's on Twitter. So that the actual ticket link is on a separate website. So they just need that, but I'll make sure it's up to date.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so yeah, that's sort of, we just thought it was useful just to explain where we were. And as I said, any ideas or thoughts of speakers or things you want to see, please let us know either in the chat or just send us an email or tweet or whatever later on.
The thing that I've forgotten is, and I've forgotten his name now, Tim, Ian Bell? No? Yeah. Ian Bell. So Ian Bell was due to actually speak tonight. He is a soil scientist based in Hawes, but we've moved him on to the next month because he couldn't do this one. But he is he's an amazing soil scientist. So we haven't quite worked out what we're going to do with him yet, but it will be something like you can bring some soil in a jiffy bag and he will do some magic with it and you can see the life in it under the microscope. And he's just a fountain of knowledge of all things that just mycorrhizal. Menno's got a thing about that, but yeah. So he'll be there throughout the conference, and we'll probably do something with him on the Sunday. And yeah. Okay.
So yeah, lots going on. We just need to. The program is coming together, and also sponsors and everything. So yeah, we're moving.
Is it doing one of these chats?
Yeah, in March. Yeah. Okay, so we'll now introduce Tim proper. So Tim, well, you can introduce yourself, I suppose. So you kindly offered to host the conference. So you've been friends with Nick and Reno for many years. If anybody's seen the Twitter photo, quite close friends with Reno. Did you see the Twitter photo? Possibly
no.
Not. Moving on.
You're worrying me already.
So yes, so you've kindly offered to host both in your big shed is where the main conference is going to be, but also you've put some trial plots out, and Raymond, your grazier, is grazing some of them. So just in terms of a bit of background of you and your farm, really.
Okay, so it's a family farm that was bought by my grandfather in 51, I think, and then it was very mixed. We had pigs and chickens and did everything that government asked them to do. As I showed you earlier, that improvement scheme from 1950 something. We've got a pig unit, we've got this, that, and the other. Everything that's on that list, they built it. And it was quite mixed then. I mean, they used to grow potatoes and they had obviously some milking cows like everyone did around here. And then of course it went intensive dairy. Sole focus was dairy. Until about when it was now 90 something, 4 or something, my dad decided he'd have enough of milking cows and getting up at 2 a.m, calving cows, and decided he's going to sell them all. So I mean, I was only 16, I think, at the time, so I didn't have a lot to say in that. And it's since then I wasn't running the farm, obviously, and he then died about 2005, and sort of landed me in it to run the farm, which, well, I didn't have to, I suppose, but felt obligated, given I've got a brother who was in Hampshire, so he wasn't much use. In fact, I think he's in London at the time, but so I think I've been running it for about 17 years now, and I didn't know what I was doing to start with, to be honest. I wasn't really planning on farming. Wasn't on my bucket list at all, really. Well, I didn't think it was, but I kind of, I think you always have it in you if you've kind of been brought up with it. So I've been brought up not just on this farm, but on another farm as well nearby. Dad used to be a partner on it, on 3 farms actually. I think that was what drove him out of it, really. He was a partner in 3 farms. There was a dairy, a sheep farm, and a beef and sheep and arable unit, which we lived on. And before the days of mobile phones and quick communication, he spent most of his time driving between all those farms, sorting out problems. CB radios helped a bit, but it wasn't easy. I just met my childhood memories. It's just flying around up and down the A66 to these different farms and seeing problems and trying to solve them, which is farming, isn't it, really? Problem solving. And then when my grandfather decided he was going to retire at about 70 something, he ended up doing all that and running this farm, which was a dairy farm, and they were milking about 130 cows at the time. For the time, that was as big as any around here, to be honest. And it was pretty full on, I guess, and that kind of sickened him of it, I think, as you can imagine, probably running 2 dairy farms at once, and all the men and running around doing that kind of stuff was just a bit much. And he decided he was just going to get out, while the going was good, and there was some quota that was still worth something. So so I picked up the legacy of that. After that, he did sort of, I don't know, we had a sales centre for Norton and Brooks Bank, livestock auctioneers, dairy auctioneers. For 15 years, we ran that. So we converted the big barn you're going to have a conference into a bespoke sale barn for dairy cattle, and all the sheds, the whole farm yard, basically, because we didn't have any cows anymore. But we kept the milking parlour going so they could be brought here and milked before sale. So it's like a whole farm or part farm dispersal. So sometimes we'd have up to about 400 head of cattle here, all had to be housed and milked and looked after, washed and clipped, and all that kind of stuff before the show, before the sales. And we did that, so we did it for 15 years. It was just it was great. It was amazingly popular. We had, at the height of it, we had 80 cows flown in from Canada. They were flushing cows. I think it cost £1,000 a cow to fly them here, which is completely bonkers when you think about it. But they were flushing cows, so they're worth a lot of money. BSE didn't really help. That sort of put a bit of a dampener on the show. And then later, of course, Foot and Mouth in 2001 really scuppered it, because we had timber in the buildings, and government really didn't want sales going on outside of concrete and steel auctions, and where they could control it better, I suppose. So that became very difficult. And they restricted us to having one every 28 days as a maximum, which is just not really economic. So it went on for 2 or 3 more years. And then when I kind of took over the farm, we kind of parted company with the auctioneers a couple of years later. And I decided to sort of try and do my own thing, which I was going to say plough my own furrow. Well, kind of did in a way, because we did more arable on the farm. It's about 300 acres in total. And
sorry, Tim, I should have asked what land type is good, isn't it? So do you mean you've it's
mostly sandy loams, a bit of sandy clay loam. So we've actually got one of the rare grade 2 soils that you find in Eden Valley. There's not many of it, not much of it around, so we've got some of that. But the grade 2 stuff is in the floodplain, so slight misconception. Yes, it can grow stuff really well. It doesn't really grow grass really well, but not great arable crops, as I discovered in my early days of trying to grow wheat and stuff on there. And it's all right if you get away with it in the winter, but not when it floods badly. So many farmers will be familiar with that problem. But, it's all been, because of arable aid through the, whatever it was, 2000s or whatever, 90s and 2000s, we did a lot more arable than we probably should have done. All conventional, plough, everything we could, harrow, rotivate, all that kind of stuff. And full arsenal of chemical warfare on all the crops. And we did. I think we grew. Maximum 300 acres. We'd have grown about 120 acres of cereals. And I do recall. I think it was about the 3rd year I ran the farm here. I grew about that amount, and it was a bit hectic. Couldn't quite get it all in the shed in the right order. It's just a bit challenging. And and I kind of we carried on with that, and we let the grazing on the rest of the farm, because we didn't have our own livestock. And then I kind of got a bit. I suppose I just carried on doing that because that's what we did, and it kind of made money. And I got another job, which didn't help. So I work for Natural England as well. I still work for Natural England, sort of trying to get down to 3 days a week. We're just negotiating that at the minute. I did, what did I know about farming really? And I kind of, I suppose we've gradually reduced to, I think because of all the silly, greening restrictions was the main driver. I decided to reduce the amount of arable we're doing because it seemed like a real pain doing all those extra things on top of other entry-level schemes and options and things like that. So I kind of reduced down to 70, 80 acres, and then it kept dropping. And then gradually I kind of got the regen bug idea of trying to improve soils and put things right in my time on the farm. And I've gone down to doing no cereals at the minute, which is kind of bizarre. But this is, that's the way. It's a change, isn't it? And I've just had a complete rethink of what we're going to do here and what I want to do with the farm in my time as a steward of the land, I suppose.
What do you mean that sort of, there's like a slow progression towards where your thinking is? Was there was it the infamous visit to a groundswell, or what was the thing that started to really trigger you? I suppose your background also is more of that ecology side.
Yeah, although we weren't the typical kind of farm that I was dealing with, I suppose, because dairy territory is hardly where our agri-environment schemes, that's not really what they deal with day to day. Not usually a lot of opportunities, but I've always been a believer that you can, if you build it, they will come, as people say. This is with habitats and wildlife, and always been a believer that you can do it anywhere. And I quite like to prove that even on the most improved ground, you can create something that's really useful. At the moment, I don't know really. I don't think there was any one particular moment. It's just been a gradual kind of awakening of the fact that we can't carry on doing it like this. We're just poisoning ourselves, basically. poisoning the planet, poisoning ourselves, really, aren't we? Pouring chemicals on, and we all know that. We'd like to think they're not really as bad as they are, but as they, people say they are, but we know they're not good, don't we? It's just convenient, and they do a job. And I think that kind of realization that I don't want to really have a legacy of all the bad things that are attributed to conventional farming. And of course, I read Gabe Brown's book. That helped, kind of give you a bit of inspiration. Soil, brilliant. Brilliant book. I've read some other books, as people do. Listened to a few podcasts. Listened to Reno, boring me, but no, not at all. Got quite excited about what Reno was doing, and Nick, of course, farmer's wife. I think Reno's kind of he's egged me on at numerous opportunities to do more and do more crazy things. And to be honest, I'm an easy target. That fair? I was an easy target for the conference anyway. I mean, basically,
I do remember us sitting in their kitchen and going, "Oh, Tim."
Yeah, kind of a roundabout way that Nick conned me into doing it. I saw her coming. I know Nick well enough to know that she was probably angling at would I help out with this conference. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know, but I kind of offered. To do it because mainly because I know that we can host stuff here because we've done the cattle sales. There'd be, I don't know, sometimes over a couple of days there might have been 300 or 400, maybe 500 people here even. So you kind of when you've seen it, know it can happen, know it can work. Then I thought, well, it's not a big leap. Mind you, we were talking about a bit of a smaller event than we are potentially talking about now. So
it seems to have increased in attendance in 2 years since we started thinking about it.
Yeah, so we're going to double park everybody.
And you probably had a functional bridge as well. But anyway.
Yeah, and you're all going to sit on each other's knees.
It'll be fine. But I'm just, I suppose, Nick can come in terms of any time with any questions, but I'm just interested with your Natural England job. You must see such a range of views of farmers that are everywhere on this continuum of change, I suppose.
Yeah, even in a day. Mentioning no names, but today I've seen some quite extreme, very extreme actually. I've done a couple of visits today. I do, and I still do. And the problem is it now surprises me more and more. You kind of get a bit, you get taken aback by actually, God, do people really still think like that? Because we've all, in our little bubble, we've all kind of moved on. We think we have anyway. We've started to move on. Mindset's changed, and I still you come across it. A lot of it's resistance, but I've been doing the agri-environment work for 20 years, just over 20 years now. And yeah, from small beginnings, there's been some people who've they've done very little to start with, and they've been difficult to get to do anything. I guess we weren't asking for so much 20 years ago, but and then gradually over time, if you put the time in, keep going back, keep having the conversations, and of course things change in the background. The policies change. There's been white papers and all this kind of stuff on how we should deliver a review and all these kind of things. You read about in farming press that influence DEFRA, influence government, influence DEFRA, and gradually you see people that have same people sometimes, not all of them, of course, some of them are still stuck in the mud, but their mindset has changed, and they've kind of come along and offered far more than I ever thought I could get out of them. And sometimes nowadays, you almost get bowled over by the opportunities that get presented. Whereas once on, we used to have to fight really hard, not fight literally, but you have to really, really work hard on people to make even small changes to their farming practices. And now we're finding people they've obviously got the regen bug, or maybe it's financial sometimes, a bit of both, I guess, and the impending doom of loss of subsidies. And they just, it's all out on the table. They're like, well, just what should we do? Let's do it all. And prepared to change my whole farming system. And what do you think? Have you got any help? What do you think we're on the right track? I got asked that today, 2 or 3 times. Is there anything else we should be doing? Which is like pushing on an open door compared to what it's been, what it was, even a few years ago. It's really changed. But of course, you still come across people who are far more standoffish, and they've never had a scheme before. They don't really understand what we're after, and they come at it with, the discussion goes, you get a lot of comments of things that you probably heard 20 years ago, and you kind of think, oh, does it, people really? And I just have to say, I can't really deal with that anymore. We haven't got time to deal with people who aren't prepared to go that extra do that little bit further and do the right thing, whatever you want to call it. Engage with us, basically. If they're not prepared to engage and come willingly, then there's enough people out there who are now that we don't really need to be knocking on doors and twisting people's arms and that kind of stuff. So, but it's getting a bit interesting at the minute, because I think the impending doom, as I said, of subsidy loss, which isn't, of course, impending doom, but that it's sinking in now. We're seeing a bit of a rush of applications. People saying, what can we do? What can we get out of this scheme? And that's inevitable. I think this year is going to be busy and busier than ever. And I think next year is probably going to escalate. I think we're going to have a massive.
But do you think people are aware that it's not going to be they're accepting that it's not, they were getting 30 grand in subsidy, they might not get 30 grand from environment payments? Or is the expectation that it'll replace subsidy?
I think from those that are better read around the subject, they realise that it isn't going to replace subsidy, and that they'll tell you that they realise that, and they realise therefore they need to make other business changes. And then there are some that haven't quite twigged yet. They definitely haven't twigged that they think there's somebody's coming to save them with a £3 billion agri-environment scheme that's going to fund everybody very well the next 10 years or whatever it is. And I keep saying, well, from what we understand, we'd be lucky if you got £1 billion to spend. And even if we did, I don't think we've got the scheme that we can spend it through very easily at the minute. So yeah, there's going to be a big gap for most people, I think. Especially around here, there's a lot of, I'm sure it's the same across the rest of the country, but there's some very big upland farms that get they get payments off commons, grazers on commons, rights on commons. They've got big allotments. They get quite a lot of money on now. All their payments years ago, and they've never had it so good. And if they've had a high-level stewardship scheme running alongside all that, then they really have had it really good. They've had an entry level and a high level. Some of them still got that, and they're still getting, well, it's changing a little bit now, but until last year, they were still getting massive amounts of subsidy payment, which yeah, they're going to be hit hard. I think some of those guys. I don't know where they think that money's going to come from, but and maybe they just won't. But farmers are very resilient. They will buckle down, batten down the hatches, and some of them will ride it out, whatever. I think we won't get all of them to come along on the way to regenerative agriculture. There's going to be resistance, and people will just focus on, perhaps the more lucrative part of, parts of livestock farming, like specialist livestock sales and things like that, and breeding very valuable tups, things like that. I think that will still go on. Just whether
Tim, I was just Tim,
for
as you travel around, what are the things that you see which you think are the most damaging? Is there areas of just no biodiversity, or is it pollution?
I think the thing that's most obvious, especially this time of year, is the still enormous amounts of runoff that people, soil that people are losing off their land. It's quite shocking still. It shocks me now, which is kind of weird, because I think I just kind of get to, there's the point at which we used to just accept that was farming, that's what it did, but it really annoys me now. I really don't want to be, labelled as a farmer and to be involved in that kind of, we've all seen it, we've all done it. I was guilty as anybody. We go, we'll crops plough and all the rest of it, get a bad spell of weather, and it pours down the tram lines. We've all had poaching and all the rest of it. We've had riverbanks that weren't fenced off and things like that. But when I still see it now, and sometimes there's some, well, as you know, Nick, there's some really extreme stuff around our neck of the woods. Mentioning no names, but anyone on the call that knows will guess who they are. And it's fields full of boulders, not much else. This time of year, you're like, what the hell? Not turnips, but boulders. The turnips have gone, and just pouring out. Of course, it's been a very dry winter until the driest winter I've known ever, until a couple of weeks ago. And then suddenly we've had the inevitable deluge, and one storm after the other. And sure enough, there's soil pouring out the gateways, down the drains, blocking drains. We've got blocked drains that just blocked after a couple of weeks from our neighbour's land, not ours, completely blocked up. Tracks washing away, sand everywhere, which is a sure sign. About sand's usually about 30% of the fraction, so the 70%'s gone down the gutter, down the river. All that silt, all that valuable stuff that everyone wants on their fields is all gone, and it's that's the most I think that's the bit I found the most shocking, because it's so visible, and it particularly irks me because I just think, well, what else are local people going to think other than that's what farmers do, and that needs to change very rapidly. I'd love to see some legislation that could stop that, because there is legislation already. A lot of what's happening there is actually they've gone beyond good sort, the soil and water, what it's called now, I can't remember what it's called now, farming rules for water. They've gone beyond those codes, and there are breaches, but they carry on doing it because they can put a lot of stock, a lot of sheep out on turnips, fodder beet all winter, creates destruction, then put silage feeders out, and cake and whatever else they want. And
importantly, before the entire outwintering system is, I do agree there's some bad practice. There's also some good practice. It can be done well.
There is, of course, but so the problem is, well, I'm just saying this is what people see, isn't it? They don't see the good practice; they see the bad practice. I think
the bit is that it is it's almost not an expectation, but it's, as you say, it's just one of those things. It's the consequence, and actually, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, Liz, we've got some questions.
Yeah, there's one from Jan, which is, so Tim, you were saying in terms of the amount of money in that could be available for schemes, is there going to be a major shortage of suitable advisors to meet the potential demand for the correct advice?
Well, I've cut my hours, so maybe, don't know.
Look at it.
Depends where you
Look
are
at it.
now.
We're just doing that.
I really don't know. I mean, the reality is with the advisor situation is that I'm 47 and I'm the youngest of a cohort. That's the last real intake into Natural England or RDS or whatever it was. I was RDS, Rural Development Service, for those who can't remember. There's a 20 plus year gap between me and the next youngster, and consistently taken people on fixed term appointments, and they've expired, and we've trained people up and they've gone, and we all get a bit fed up with that after a while. So yeah, I'm one of the youngest of the older generation in our Cumbria team, and we're a very we're not a young team particularly. We're a very we've persisted because we like it what we're doing. I think most people here like where they work, and unless you move to Scotland, kind of you've hit the top of the ladder really with Cumbria, because it's a great place to work in terms of agri-environment. There's great opportunities here, and landscape and all the rest of it. I forgot what your question was now, but anyway.
In terms of, so there's a gap in skills basically.
Oh, there's a gap in skills. Yeah, I think I think there is a big gap. It's not, and it's not. You can't fill that easily. We've been having a discussion at work, but we've been saying it for the last 15 years. You can't just magic up experience in agri-environment advisors overnight, and I don't know what they're going to do about that. And it's not my job. I'm afraid I'm not that high up in natural England. I'm just a lowly advisor, and I just despair, as we all have been for years, as to how they can just neglect it so long. And then, of course, they've been telling us.
Sorry, keep interrupting.
As I said, we're not actually, we might not even have a role in these new schemes. So there's not been any reason to employ anybody. So reassuring, but we are. I think now they've realised that actually the scheme, the middle sort of tier of it, the local nature recovery is going to be a kind of almost a roll-on of countryside stewardship. Surprise, because it kind of works, and it can work. They're going to take the best bits of it, they say, ditch all the bad bits. So.
I think, and also there's an opportunity for farmers. A lot of farmers are highly engaged in the schemes, aren't they, in terms of actually being available for advice? Is that the way forward?
A lot of the farmers are engaged in.
As in terms of farmers who have engaged in schemes, could they be people that are trained up to help?
Help other farmers. Oh yeah. There's a role for Reno there. Get it.
Finally, we found one.
I think you found. Yeah, it could be your calling, Reno. Farmer to farmer advice. Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah, there's and to be honest, that happens quite a lot already. There's a lot of not a lot. There's a few. I shouldn't exaggerate massively. I just hear about the ones that are happening, but there's a few that are going to see what other farmers are doing and what the changes are, and the schemes that I've set up or been involved in, and they're going to see them, talk to them about it. And there's a little network of people who are, going to see people like Nick and Reno, and it's catching on. But it's I think because we're in our own little bubble, we don't realise it's not catching on that much. It might be 1% of farmers in Cumbria, I don't know. But, just like farmers always go and see, other new developments, whether it's a new latest dairy parlour or, milking parlour or cattle crush or something, they're coming to see what, Reno's crazy chicken houses and those kind of things.
A couple more questions. So one regarding your outwintering nightmare. So what could be done, or have you seen ideas in terms of reducing that risk from outwintering animals on forage crops?
Not in the numbers they're doing it in. There's no, they're just way over the land's winter carrying capacity. These are people buying lambs to fatten, and there's putting, there's thousands of them. There's no real solution to that. We've got high rainfall, sandy soils, steep slopes. There's no, and root crops. I mean, it couldn't be any worse. And it's. I don't even. There's no way you can start on that really, other than. I mean, of course, some of them are doing, until they start putting feeders out as well. They're doing good practice, and they're quite traditional around here to have whatever it'd be, a combine or maybe 2 combine widths of spring barley around the outside of the fodder beet or turnips or whatever it was. That's been very traditional practice, and that works. That's low numbers, or if you're harvesting it in good conditions. But and we've done that here before. We've done it in the past. We used to have our own fodder beet harvester even. Yeah, that can work, but it's when you then just carry on, with the same numbers of stock once all the fodder beet rotten, and put feeders on and steep slopes, and it keeps raining, and your margin's completely, you can't even tell what the margin is by that point. It's just black or brown or washed away. No stubble to be seen. There's no way around that, I think, other than just not doing it. So I
think the challenge.
Go on.
No, the challenge is that it's as you say, it's about that crop isn't necessarily. It's the management of that crop, isn't it? So it's the planning. Do you mean it's how many days feed, all of those things that can be done, which is potentially easier if it's your land, your sheep. It's when you're paying for that access to that land and you're trying to get every possible kilo of dry matter off it.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
the webinar.
This is mostly rented ground, so
yeah. So the guy.
So I know I see where you're going.
It was his land and his sheep, but he was growing cover crops specifically with Phacelia in buckwheat, linseed, not pushing the lambs or sheep to eat everything. And so actually there was quite a lot of green material left. Yeah. But that is a situation that you don't find in those rented situations.
No. So there are some very good examples actually locally. I mean, some of it's been a little bit lucky this winter. There's a cover crop virgin, Mr. Beery, who we all know, who's done. I think he's done 90 acres. Jim Beery up at Gathel Horns, the new share farmer there. Jim's done a very good job this year. But I did keep saying to him, because I keep having a look at it, he maybe did get lucky. He had them, but they were on for a short period. It was a diverse cover crop as an entry into herbal lay. Diverse with some tillage radish and Celia, and I'm sure else there was kales and all sorts in it. It looks like a big wild bird mix basically. And he had the sheep, and there was cattle on one block and sheep on the other. I didn't see the end result of the cattle one. I'll have to look at some point, but the sheep one, I mean, they very open view, everyone can see it from the road. He got through it and got off it before that rain came, and no real harm done as far as I can see. So yeah, but it's completely different. That Tim's got a completely different mindset. He wouldn't have been caught with feeders in the field and carrying on, because it would look like a quagmire by now if you had. I think it can be done well, but that's not what these guys are doing. They're renting land, paying high rents and hammering it. It's embarrassing, frankly, for farming. I think that goes on a little bit. Anyway, yeah.
And just before we move on to Reno, you will have to do a blatant plug for your cactus tree guards.
Oh yeah,
Tim. It needs to be quick though. Don't rabbit on. Okay.
Yeah, well, I've talked too much about soil erosion, which wasn't.
I know. Quick sale.
There you go. It's a terrible Spanish leaflet.
Please don't say you're about to do some sort of Spanish accent.
Tim, that was utterly.
No.
Manuel joins us this evening.
Tim has Tim imports cactus tree guards from Spain, and we've got a few here. They are amazing. He's very lucky he's got the deal. But if anyone would like cactus tree guards or know anything about them, contact Tim. Tim, have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, no, a little bit. Of course I have. I might as well take the opportunity for a plug. I'm a UK distributor for them, so you know who to come to. We've got a website, cactustreeguards.co.uk, and they're these. I don't know if they're these. They've got these. This is the main concept. They're these spiky prongs all around them, and the thing is that they're designed to be rolled out en masse. They've got about nearly 4 million of, I think, used in Spain and Portugal, replanting the Dehesa, probably pronouncing it wrong, but Dehesa and Montanado, I'm sure it's not pronounced like that, in Portugal. So it's the Corcos oak forest, and they've done about 4 million of them there now. So it's well tried and tested, and it's been developed. The factories between those two areas, and there's been a big government and EU drive to replant it because, and this is actually relevant because the reason being that they're apparently we're about 20 years behind them in terms of impact of extreme climate. Not me quite Cumbria, but the weather they get now, the extremes of rainfall and dry spells, is predicted to reach about Liverpool in 20 years' time, which is a bit of a gulp. It's pretty extreme. And the problems they've had is that, people, a bit like our orchards, they've been clear, the cork oak, the demand for cork oak obviously has gone down the pan, and traditional practices of pig pannage and all the rest of it, because all the corks now plastic or screw tops, and everyone drinks something else. They've been cleared for make way for more livestock, and now they've got problems of baked hard soils blowing off in the wind, and lack of water retention, terrible water cycle, chronic water cycle problems. And what it's not really amusing, but what they're saying to us is they can't quite believe that we aren't catching on to this here. It takes 30 years to have a tree that's of any use, really, in terms of reversing these problems. And they're annoyingly for themselves, they're well behind the curve, because they were getting certification. And what are we doing here? We're not doing much, but apart from me, of course, I'm selling cactus cards. But
we'll have a tree.
We do need really.
And there is a question, which is one of my favourite questions ever. Do they work with big itchy cows?
Itchy cows. As long as you're not going to show us your leggings, Liz.
It's me. Anyway. Do they withstand fierce animals?
They withstand anything, because I just think of them as like a bit like an electric fence. So an animal touches an electric fence, they don't really go back for more. They learn. You don't need to have electric fences on once they know they're there. I've left mine. I was off here for 3 or 4 days accidentally, and they haven't even touched them. So the cactus cards are just the same. They touch them, and they don't want to go near them again. And they'll only touch them again if they're pushed, in a stampede or whatever. So that's why they work. They're just too spiky, and they're wary of them. They'd rather go somewhere else and browse something else rather than try and get into that puny little tree you've got in a spiky cage. So they just work. They're designed for that. Okay. Sorry about the thing. You mentioned it.
No, just this. It was more relation to. Are you standing by your product? So if the person does get some and they don't stand up to the cows, what will you do?
Well,
think of that.
You're going to get your money.
I know what he'll do. He'll phone them up and then not stop talking, and then they'll just put them down.
I think that's Nick's very passive-aggressive way of suggesting that we need to move on.
Well, I'll just say, what are we doing? I've had
I
one. I
can always mute him. Shall I mute him?
Mute me.
Right, Tim. Thank you.
Well, Phil says
they work.
Phil says he's got some, and they are awesome. They are. We're just
is that Bill Grayson?
Right, but
Bill
Tim,
Grayson, top man. Thanks, Bill.
Phil White, but anyway, it's
Hey,
fine.
Phil. I thought it was Bill Grayson, right? He sometimes comes on the call.
Right, Reno.
Thank you,
turn.
Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Hi, Les. Be nice to
Reno.
me. I feel like cannon fodder here.
Hi.
Oh,
It's all fine. So so Tim's sort of given you quite a few intros in terms of what you're up to. So I was just sort of getting people to think, or getting people to understand what you're up to at the minute and what your plans are for this year. So you're planting lots of trees.
Yeah, well, this year we are going into permaculture. We're expanding the eggmobile business and just keeping on tweaking our rotational grazing with the suckler cows.
And does that, so you're putting more chickens on your farm or building chicken tractors for other people?
More on ours. So I built our original one, which holds about 250, and that was based on a Richard Perkins design. And then Newton Rig closed, and we went on their online sale, bought their hospitality trailer, and turned that into an eggmobile. Another 150.
Has it still got all the branding on it?
All the branding on it.
Excellent.
So there's kids from 1995 sort of holding a chicken or a spade, or some in army kind of gear and stuff, the CCF, and they're on the side of it, and it's still advertising Newton Rig. So that holds 150. And then we just recently went to Richard Parks at Low Sizer Barn, which is on the main road into Kendal. They've got an organic farm there, and he used to have this eggmobile. It's a lot fancier. This has been built on a bale trailer chassis, so it's quite a lot heavier. I'll have to pull it with the tractor, but it holds 300, and the eggs are pretty well going to be clean when they come out of there. We're having a little bit of trouble with dirty eggs at the moment, but that's because they're inside and because of avian flu and things.
There has just been a request to see the back of your head. There we go.
How's
Everybody's
that?
happy. Beautiful.
How's that?
Yeah, I think that's extra points.
Okay.
And because well, the minute, I suppose, are your cows all in, or are you still bale grazing, or what you've been doing with your cows?
Well, yeah. I'm just trying to think how we had about 39 on bale grazing up on our allotment, and they have now been back in for 3 weeks. The month is the rain, the weather changed, and it got really wet. And I brought them in, and now I'm thinking about it's going to fair again probably tomorrow. We've got left, but I'm thinking now about having a hay bale grazing system which is quite flexible, and so I'm going to have them in groups, and I'm going to move them in and out when the weather suits it. So I think if we're going to have these periods of dry spells in the winter, then those cows want to be, or at least some of the herd want to be out. That's my thinking.
Okay, so it's just the infrastructure to get them in and out without too much damage.
So I want to be able to have. We've lessened quite a few of our sheep, so I want to have some cattle sheds now, which currently are holding the sheep, which can hold a biggish mob of cows, which I can run in and out of the sheds. But my one little problem I've had recently has been lice. So I've talked to Angus Nellis just recently, and I was asking him what he did in his organic system, and I don't, because their cows are out probably for longer. He might sort of I might be stood corrected there, but they probably don't get as much challenge with lice. But with me running them in and out all the time, I think I'm getting a lice challenge. And so I've tried, I'm trying to do it organically, get rid of them by using diatomaceous earth. So that's my latest little thing. And I think it is working. They're still itching a little bit, but it's an organic method, and I'm just trying it. Like everything on this farm, we're just trying stuff.
And I briefly mentioned your trees, but you and the woofer Nick said you'd planted 1,000 trees or something in a week.
Yeah, we just got them in the day before yesterday. Yeah, up on the Hartside Road.
And what's that? What's that? A browsing or hedge, or what's the plan for
No,
those?
that was just a fenced off area. The main road to Alston was undermined, and so they rebuilt it 2 or 3 years ago now, and pushed up a load of earth underneath it and steadied it up. And then the fence, I said you may as well leave a fence in with a view to doing something with it. Hadn't quite decided. And then within our new countryside stewardship agreement, we just thought, well, that can just go into a wood. And so we just thought, well, we've got 1,400 trees in there. So it was good.
The question is, might it be your future silvopastoral? I think it might. You're currently working through it, aren't you?
Yeah, we are, because that's the next thing. We're quite excited about it, really. It's a bit, for us, it's a bit groundbreaking. And the neighbours already think we're loonies, but I think when they see this, they'll think we've gone completely around the twist. So we're going to have gooseberries, apples, plums, loads of different human edible stuff, as well as loads of other diversity in our laneways. So instead of just thinking that we're going to just put hedges in from now on, we're going to put loads of different stuff in. Stuff that when we can walk around, pick an apple or some gooseberries or something. Or
have you ever tried to pick a gooseberry? Have you ever tried them?
Yeah, a little bit.
Have you tried to pick them? Pain in the arse.
Yeah, but I like gooseberry full. I do.
Fair enough. Sorry, this is
so
logistics.
anyway, back to the thing. So we've got the glamping units
child
now. we've got the glamping units, our Russian personnel carriers, which
We're not calling them that anymore.
yeah, they're Soviet era ones.
I think you should send them back, Reno.
Send
them back. They need them. Not the
They
rescue.
might not be a very good sell now. So people are going to come and stay in them, and then they're going to pick their own apples and stuff for their tea. So that's what we're thinking about.
And that sort of reconnection types. And I suppose a lot of the bushes will get there quicker, won't they, rather than waiting for an apple tree or whatever.
Yeah.
And what about any nut trees?
Yeah, a few nuts in there, I reckon. I don't know how. I mean, we're not really doing it as thinking that we're going to get crops from it. We're just thinking at it as it from a diversity thing, really, because I suppose it's experimental and we don't know what's going to survive in this climate and what isn't. So certain nut trees, I think I was reading walnut trees maybe shouldn't plant them with some other different types of trees. So I've got a lot to learn in that respect. I've got to finish reading my Mark Shepherd permaculture book, because I always forget his name. Oh, there we go.
And for me, the permaculture, is it about it's having different layers, isn't it? Or does it necessarily have to be in the same profile, or is it just within the same field? But it's sort of it's stacking, isn't it? But on a
stacking, and it's all about that stacking enterprises and permanent crop instead of ploughing and putting annuals in. That's basically the gist of it. So if we're ticking the right box, I think if we have permanent grass and these permanent apple trees and fruit trees, nut trees.
And I suppose history, in terms of in the olden days, I suppose Nick as well might, but there must have been a history of fruit growing in Cumbria. What was the?
I think the main one's probably damson, isn't it, in Cumbria?
Yeah, I think damsons, but I don't know.
Romans grew grapes here, apparently. So there's always hope.
Bet they tasted hideous, though.
But I think
I'm not being very positive today. Sorry, I'm on the gooseberry end again. Sorry.
I think you could probably get a thornless gooseberry now as well. So it'd be all right, Reno. Pause.
Yeah, I think it's just adding more. I think we've just stopped doing lots of things, haven't we? And we just need to. And the fruit trees are a bit more expensive, but it's just worth a try. So yeah, I think it's quite exciting.
But it also fits in with our grazing as well. So in our laneways, we've got these laneways now we've been using to set up electric fences over the last few years, and we can just add to them, and it's just a continuous. We just carry on doing exactly what we're doing with our grazing, but we've got another crop growing in between.
So, Renison, there's a question here about wood chip. So why don't you just talk about the wood chip, your idea about wood chipping the hedges?
Yes, well, this is a wood chip corral, isn't it? But I thought about wood chips corral because, sorry, a wood chip corral. We've got a quarry which would lend itself perfectly for that. But then I'm thinking you're going to get a certain amount of leaching from that. And yeah, you've got all your muck in one place. I don't know. So what my thinking now is what I've already have done this year is get some wood chip in, and I put it into my bedding down areas as the first layer, and so that then is getting when I get round to mucking them out, they're going to get heaped up, and that the wood chip's going to get spread around evenly in all my muck heaps, which I then compost. So I'm then getting my fungal element into my compost, and it's not just a bacterial element. That's my theory.
But I suppose the other challenge is because you've got your sheds there, haven't you, in terms of the cost and potential leaching of those pads. But your idea is it's not about shutting the gate so they come in November and they don't go out till April. You're trying to use opportunities for them to get out of the shed and save however many bales over that time.
Save bedding bales. Yeah. But I mean, where we're quite lucky here, although a lot of these sheds are a bit crap, we have still got quite a lot of roof, space. We've got quite a few sheds, and we can we can get quite a few cattle under cover, so the muck that we do make can be out of the rain and not leaching, and I can heap it up and compost it. So we're in quite a good position in that respect, really.
And in terms of, because I remember talking to you about the kicking the hay habit book, but is that how are you getting on? I suppose back to that point, bale grazing and housing needs bales. What's your thinking at the minute?
Yeah, I really like hay bale grazing. We did the silage bale grazing in kale fields for 2 or 3 years, and I think it was the first year we did it. We had the beasts from the east. The cows, the heifers, in-calf heifers that I had in there did really well. They were happy that the water was frozen, but they got enough moisture from the kale. There was silage already in there. I didn't really have to drive a tractor in there ever. I still had a certain amount of respect from the fence, even with icicles hanging off it and weighing it right down to the ground. But then when we could travel around a bit, just after the beats from the east, I saw that the wind had picked up my topsoil and blown it over the dike, across the road and into my neighbour's field. And I could tell because all his snow was brown and it all come out of our field. And so that was another one of the reasons why we've gone away from growing kale and turnips and things like that, because we're getting quite a bit significant wind erosion and we're getting rain erosion here as well. So I'm just trying to go for an all grass system, and then we've got the option of making hay if we need to, or silage, good quality silage. But if we get the weather now, I want to see if I can carry on making hay. We made 110 bales of hay this year. It was lovely stuff. So much like probably everyone else did as well.
But I think one of the problems in our system is we still have to buy some hay. So we are relying on probably hay.
Straw.
Yeah, but hay from a non-regenerative system, I suppose. So when we kind of think you've got a good circular system, we're not there yet.
It's also, but that's a P&K source, isn't it?
Yeah.
Type. So I think in terms of, but you're not buying any other additional feeds in, are you? So I suppose your ambition is not to buy anything in, but at the minute
that would be good. But yeah, I can't see us doing 100% bale or winter grazing with the number of cattle. I think we'd have to have a lot less cattle.
And because of the wet that you can get.
Yeah.
There's a question about pigs. What are you up to with pigs?
We're down to 1 sow. Heidi just bit the dust recently, got made into some bacon, which apparently is very good. We tried some what do we had already? A shoulder or something. That was very good. Mature pig. So we've got one left, Brunhilde, and she is currently with the boar who is called Gerard. We like to say, "Go on, Gerard." And he, I think she'll be in pig. Another month or so, we should have some piglets.
And we've got 10 in shed.
Yeah.
Say that again, Nick. Sorry.
So we've got 10 piglets who are growing at the minute.
Okay.
That's our plug. That's our plug. That's like Tim's plug. That's ours.
For meat and
eggs. I want 4 of them. So only say 6.
And then there was another statement really about your wood chip corrals, about it just needing a good effluent. Yeah, I think the wood chip could lead to other challenges. But
yeah, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose that nutrient, because at the moment we get it. It's all in the sheds, and I can heap it up and compost it, and I'm saving pretty well all of that effluent, because it just gets mixed back into the muck, and then it goes out in the autumn and fertilizes for the next year. So I don't think I will do the corral thing. That's just my opinion.
Okay, but you do love a bit of composting.
Yeah, likes me compost.
Didn't you get a compost thermometer for Christmas? In fact,
I did. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I tried the Johnson Sue composting thing, and I messed it up. It was heating up really nicely, wasn't it? And I put too much water on it and cooled it down too quick. So
killed it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I'm on with that at the minute. I've got the wood chip. So we had with some hedges. Sorry, I'm interrupting again. We had some hedges that were had been laid this winter, and so we decided to chip all the brash rather than, well, we haven't burned it for years actually, but chip all the brash to make some nice diverse species wood chip, and it's sitting in a windrow at the minute with thermometers in it to see if it's going to be good under the guidance of Ian Bell, great man. You're going to see soon. But,
I definitely
Yeah,
think
there's
that we need a composting workshop.
Yeah, we got a lot to learn as farmers. I think we've got a lot to learn here. I think it could be the next big thing for us.
I think that, and well, someone's mentioned about bokashi in the chat as well in terms of runoff, but I think also particularly, well, Tim mentioned the farming rules for water, which is the opportunity to get more manures onto grassland, because that's what but as you say, it's trying to get them into the right sort of friable unit to be taken up by the grass, really. So I think there is going to be a lot of interest in the next few years, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
How to convert that really strawy stuff into something that the grass is going to use quite quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of my only other question about, I suppose this is a Nick question. So no, as in Nick would
The
normally ask
intelligent one.
this
Oh,
to people because she's got empathy and I don't.
all right.
Are you happier with you running your farm as you are now compared to you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, way happier. And we talk about this a bit now and again. Charlie Walker had a meeting, and that was just after the Bees from the East. Probably a bit down then anyway, but someone asked us, are you happy farming the way you're farming at the moment? And if you are, stick your hands up. And only a few people put their hands up, and I definitely didn't put my hand up because I wasn't happy, and I knew I wasn't. And now I'm a lot happier. So there we go.
And what is your favorite day? What would your favorite day look like if you could choose your best jobs? Keep it clean.
He would get up at 8 o'clock, not before.
That's
Okay.
an average day, an average time. Just I think moving electric fences in the carving fields. Yeah, carving behind the wire, tagging calves and things on a lovely spring summery day. That's my idea of heaven, that is.
Excellent. We've had a question from Miles, and I don't know whether he's shouting, but he's used capitals, so I don't know whether to. Do you sell pork direct to the consumer? I'll stop assuming he's shouting.
Yeah, so we sell all our pork direct. We do a little bit in boxes in the post, but only a small amount. We've got a lady called Jane who has got a business called Deer and Dexter, who processes the pork for us, and she packages it really well. Her sausages, we've had them tonight actually, they're really good. Bacon's amazing. My worry is if ever Jane got hit by a bus, there isn't anyone else that good. So that's my worry.
She's not likely to get hit by a bus in day.
How many buses are there nearby?
No, but she is like a fun, like a huge part of the wheel, and is to find a replacement for her is tricky.
Okay.
the 8591 to Keswick, so it's pretty. And he only goes about twice a week. He's quite safe.
Oh, shut up! Shut up!
There are other butchers out there.
So, but I think in comparison, so with Heidi, Heidi was like a 5-year-old sow. And I think if we'd have sold her as a cull sow, we might have got 20 quid for her. And so I'm hoping I've turned her into maybe 500 quid with cost to take off that. But it's, yeah, I think pork is a really good thing. And if you can find someone that makes good bacon, you then can't get enough.
And just on the compost, have you tried compost tea?
Yeah, so and that's what I was talking about with the Johnson Sue, but I have messed it up, so I need to start again.
Okay.
I'm interested in doing it, and then it'll just be a question of making a sprayer to spray the tea out, or whether Tim might have one by then, we could share one or whatever.
Perfect. I think we're
Reno. I think he was saying that he's going to use applicator to spread it.
Yeah, you slightly off mic,
Yeah,
but it's
we're all
getting the
going to
gist.
try that soon, aren't we, Reno? We're all going to have a go with that.
Yeah.
Ian made an applicator which might do the job.
Yeah.
Spray, I think.
In terms of, there's no more questions coming from people. Most of my questions are done. I don't know whether you've got anything else you feel like we haven't gone through, or things you're excited by carbon calling, or what would you like to see?
Oh, we need to talk about the beer.
That's true.
That's what
It
I
is.
was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
I'm very excited about Tim and I's trip to the brewery, the local brewery, sourcing locally brewed, sustainable bitter. Funny, Tim?
I can barely hear you, but yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Something about some
It's
local
basically
sustainability.
looking
It's very
forward to going with you to a brewery. I could never say
to
that
the
word.
pub. No,
Just-
I tried the invite to the local brewery. It is literally about half a mile from us, but no, I was fobbed off with, it's served in several local pubs. Go and try it there. So yeah, we've got to go to the Shepherd's Inn at Langworth. We could plug for them. Yeah, we're going to try some there and a few other local establishments to get the full range of their beers, because we've got to have something very local. But if it's that great, we'll have to go for something else as well.
Yeah, in fear and trepidation, Tim and Reno are in charge of the bar.
If anyone knows of a really
As well.
regenerative beer, hey?
We're going to make this bar as well, our pallets, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
The advice would be bring your own drink, perhaps, just to be on the safe side.
The other thing is workshops. If anyone's got any ideas about workshops, that's be helpful. And also, if you, this is a bit random, but if you do play a musical instrument, bring it for the soiree at night time. But Liz, I enjoyed that. It was good. I
No,
hope
thanks.
people are clearer.
Probably not, but we've enjoyed ourselves, sort of. But no, thank you. But we'll be back end of March, won't we, with Ian, talking soil and what his workshop probably on the Sunday will lead to, microscopes.
Yeah, and I suppose just spread the word really, so we can get and it will be a conference for people who are kind of well onto the regenerative journey, awful word, but also there'll be a lot there just for people who are just starting or haven't even begun, like Liz's woeful man.
Thanks. No, but I think it's, and when we sort of set it up, it was about the attitude, wasn't it? So the people we like talking to have the attitude of they're going to solve things rather than being relying on subsidy or various things. So it's part of that being open to new information, isn't it? It's very vague in terms of who we're after, but it is everybody who's got some interesting grass, really. Not that we're desperate, but anyway.
And the knowledge transfer, that's the main thing, isn't it?
I'm just looking at the
I am.
sorry, distracted. So thanks everybody. We'll be back in a month, or just under a month probably, with Ian. But thank you, Tim. Thank you, Reno, for the emergency impromptu chat when Ian couldn't quite make the date. So we appreciate you greatly.
We're just a stand-in, as always.
You're not just the stand-in, but yes.
It's quite important in all this, Tim, actually.
Yeah. You are the host farmer. That's how you will now forever be known.
Yeah.
Tim, can you grow a field of turnips for us for the summer or not?
You're gonna come and mob graze them, or you're just gonna put 3,000 lambs on them?
I think we're
Okay,
more
this isn't
interested.
helpful.
We're more interested in a diverse cover crop, and at that point,
Yes.
good
I can
night,
do that.
everybody.
Thank
Speak
you
to soon.
all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.